From Forbes, Kamala crash. Trump blames Harris for stock market downturn. In case you missed it, Wall Street's fear gauge, the VIX, hits highest levels since the pandemic market plunge in 2020. We've got, where do we have this one? Washington Post, Dow sinks more than 1,000 points in global market sell-off. And for good measure, where's my phone? Oh, my phone's right in front of me. Well, let me just disclose what I'm currently down today. $18,000. I'm not a big stock market guy. I don't have very much in there. But that's my losses for the day, thanks to, I do believe, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. This is the administration that is currently in. It is their policies. They've been spending money like crazy on just total garbage, like the Ukraine war. It's no surprise we're going to see hyperinflation. They've been paying off student loan debts, even though the Supreme Court said not to. They are dumping your money into the market. And I don't mean in a way that would actually bring prices down. I'm saying they're causing hyperinflation by just spending like lunatics. But there was an interesting point Trump truthed out. When the polls started suggesting Kamala was going to win, the market starts going down. And it's not the only factor. Obviously, the jobs report was bad. Unemployment is up. Jobs are down. Expected jobs are supposed to be way higher. The jobs report, I think, was like 117K.
It was ridiculous.
It was supposed to be 117.
Low. Yeah.
Very, very low. I think it's fair to say that when people believe Kamala's going to win, they sell. They are concerned that if they're in the market, plus with this downturn, it causes panic. If polls start showing Trump is winning, the market's going to improve because people are going to want to be in these companies. A Trump administration will make your 401k better.
It did last time.
Do I have the tweet up here? I got to find it. Let's see. Here we go. From Real Development CFA, your 401k is getting unburdened from what has been.
Sure is.
Yeah.
There was a report from Goldman Sachs that came out on the 4th that said it raised the likelihood that we'll see a recession in the next 12 months from, I think it was 15 to 25%.
Yeah.
And I think this is really going to weigh heavily on voters' minds, especially young voters as it go to the polls. Of course, retirees, people who are getting ready for that. I'm sure they are thinking about this as well, but they've lived through more elections. Young voters who are, maybe one or two election cycles in of being able to cast their own ballot and are trying to plan their financial future. I mean, it really seems telling that one candidate seems to make the stock market happy and one doesn't.
Right. And making the stock market happy is also making jobs. Mm-hmm. We have huge unemployment numbers now. What is it? 4.3%. Yeah. Highest since October 2021. And you have Joe Biden just recently when he was asked what he wanted his legacy to be. And he said that he cured the economy and the environment. And so I think we're just waiting to see what his cure for the environment must be.
And look, I can understand there's a lot of factors going on right now. A lot of stuff is going on with interest rates in Japan that is causing a lot of people that invested in the U.S. markets from Japan to pull their investments in order to pay back debt because they've raised interest rates. There's a ton of stuff. There's a potential looming wider spread war in the Middle East, all of it. But so much of this, here's my major takeaway from all of this is that there are certain economists that predicted stuff like this would happen. They're usually from the Austrian or Chicago school, right? So that's your Mises guys, your Hayek guys, your Friedman guys, your Sol guys. And they always get told by the establishment, oh, they're being ridiculous. This is absurd. That's not going to happen. There is no problem. Inflation is transitory, right? Like all of that. Stop listening to the people that keep telling you everything's okay when Democrats are in charge because Democrats are in charge, and start listening to the economists that have said over and over and over again, you can't spend money the way the federal government is doing. You can't print money to create prosperity. You can't engage in the sort of practices that we're engaging in because it will lead to a recession. This isn't mysticism. Right? If you are just printing dollars, if the federal government is throwing hundreds of millions of dollars at the Taliban right now, right? You are going to end up in a bad situation.
That story is so wild.
Oh my! Sean Ryan was talking about this months ago.
The U.S. is just accidentally sending $230 million to the Taliban.
Thank God.
Accidentally.
Thank God Elizabeth Warren, pushed so hard for those 87,000 additional IRS agents in order to make sure that Americans paid their taxes, because otherwise the Taliban would have never gotten their money.
My favorite thing is they brought the meme back where it's rockets from Gaza into Israel.
Yeah.
And then the Iron Dome, and it's like my tax dollars, somehow also my tax dollars.
Yeah.
And it's like someone tweeted, in light of the news about the Taliban receiving $230+ million from the U.S. government, I'd like to bring back this meme. Yeah.
I feel like people should stop paying their taxes until the government figures itself out. I know they never will, so that's never going to happen. But it just seems crazy to me that they're like, you can have to pay every year. And I always think of the meme where it's like, government, you owe us money. And the person is like, how much? And they're like, we know, but we won't tell you.
Yeah.
Ha ha.
It is we know, but we won't tell you.
And
if you get it
mess up,
wrong,
jail.
federal prison.
But you know what I think about this Afghanistan story is I don't know that it was an accident.
Oh, I don't think it was.
So we talked about how under the Obama administration, ISIS just flourished. Just a whoopsie. Obama kept slipping on banana peels. Just couldn't seem to get those rascals.
Yeah.
And then Donald Trump walks in, hits the button, and they're gone. Mm-hmm. You look at Donald Trump's plan for withdrawing from Afghanistan, and then Joe Biden gets in, and whoopsie daisy, slips on a banana peel. Or the deep state likes the chaos in the Middle East because it destabilizes the region, allowing the U.S. to basically exert authority without any interference. So you go to any one of these nations and you got to deal with a Gaddafi, and you're like, oh, this Gaddafi guy. Well, now there's no Gaddafi. U.S. has free run of Libya in any way they need to. Not that like we're going in there like we are with other countries, but you get rid of a Bashar al-Assad, and then all of a sudden the U.S. is free reign of Syria, which the U.S. desperately does want. Mm-hmm. So I have to wonder if they weren't accidentally sending hundreds of millions of dollars to the Taliban.
Yeah, like maybe they just wanted to send. But the thing, too, is after we left Afghanistan in a very bad way, the Biden administration said that they were going to help rebuild the region. So they said they were going to give a lot of money to the Taliban. And then they didn't say the Taliban, they said Afghanistan.
Yeah.
But
Right.
the
Who's running the
Taliban was in
place?
charge of it. So I don't think it was a mistake. I think it was an intentional thing, and they just don't like the framing now.
I think that's accurate. I think one of the things that I appreciated, I remember when Trump first got into office, one of the biggest concerns was, we're going to have World War III, we're going to have this, we're going to have that. And then all of a sudden, lo and behold, we get involved in the fewest, actual large scale conflicts of, any president in recent history. And the difference is that it wasn't that Donald Trump was afraid to use the U.S. military when it was perhaps appropriate or necessary. The difference is that he understood the difference between a punitive expedition and spending 20 years trying to rebuild a country in our own image, right? He wasn't interested in the latter. He was interested in the former.
Right.
You want to screw around. Again, the bombing of the embassy in Iraq and Baghdad was a perfect example of this. Was his response, okay, we know Iran is behind this. We know the Islamic Republican Guard is financing this and strategizing with people to do this. Let's invade Iran and try to set up a parliamentary democracy. No, it was, who was in charge? I'm killing that guy. And lo and behold, Iran was like, oh, this is different. This is not beneficial to the people in power, because he's not killing a bunch of civilians in Tehran in order to send a message to the Ayatollah. He's killing people within the inner circle of the Ayatollah. That sends a very, very different message, because quite frankly, in the Middle East, strength is respected. But it has to be strength, and it has to be power directed at the people who actually hold
That's
power,
what
not their
Trump
civilian. That's why Trump was so good at that.
But to be fair, I think strength is generally respected. You look at domestic policy, and you look at the UK, you look at the United States. Why is it that the far left will get away with the acts of violence they commit while we desperately beg for accountability? Why is it that Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro had to go to prison and Merrick Garland does not? Mm-hmm. Well, it's because Democrats are willing to use power, Republicans are not. Mm-hmm. So if you're not willing to use the power vested in you by the American public when you actually get it, don't be surprised if Democrats, even when they're in the minority, they're going to still do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad we're all in agreement. Show over.
Do you remember, I was just looking up this old clip. You remember Jared Bernstein, chair of the Council of Economic Advisors from Joe Biden?
Oh, yes.
Who said the government definitely prints money and definitely lends that money by selling bonds. Remember that whole clip?
He had no idea.
He had no idea
how
what's
anything
going
in
on.
the economy works.
And now here we are in a massive,
What I've been
downturn.
saying for a long time is that these are the grandchildren of the liberal economic order, and they inherited a system they do not know how to run.
Correct.
No.
And wealth lasts 3 generations.
Yeah.
So now it is, oof.
Well, and they think it's inherently evil. Like I remember I had this, we had this argument on the floor of the House of Delegates with somebody who was a trained economist, right? Like she had studied under,
Allegedly trained economist.
I mean, at MIT, the whole deal. She had studied under a Nobel laureate, and the whole deal. And we're having this whole argument about minimum wage increases. And I'm arguing, like, look, you can't just arbitrarily increase the price of something and not expect there to be negative consequences as a result. And it was like, well, that may sound good in Economics 101, but when you really study, I'm like, really? So demand curves change when you feel like it because you're a leftist? That's not how reality works. But again, they honestly believe, and I'm watching this trained economist shift from attempting to make an economic argument,
trained.
right? Again, shift from making an economic argument to, I care about people more than you do. Well, hot damn, if that's how it works, you just got to care more.
She can guilt you into doing what she wants.
I had no idea.
What's your experience like working with Democrats on a state level? Because again, we get like the Jamie Raskins, who I think are really trying to hang on to federal positioning. And sometimes I wonder if it's easier for Republicans and Democrats who are kind of looking to do what's best for their state to strike compromises.
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
No, I don't think so.
That's been my impression of the parties, at least on the federal level, that they, at one point in their history, had a similar common set of values and goals. They just differed on how they wanted to get there. But that doesn't seem like
at one point, the Democrats, you could make an argument that they took more of a populist approach with respect to trying to take care of the working man and the whole deal. And I get all of that. The problem is that the Democratic Party got eventually completely co-opted by the leftist ideology. They fundamentally believe, they don't come out and say it, right? But they fundamentally believe the way that Marx explained the world. There's oppressors, there's oppressed, and their job, their duty is to stick up for the oppressed. And the only way they can do that is by seizing more power. And the main enemy is, whether it's free market economics, whether it's traditional family, it's anything that stands in the way of them perfecting society and taking care of people who desperately need them. And so the end result is that I'm not talking with somebody, we're no longer dealing with the Democratic Party that wants to argue over the top marginal income tax rate. We're talking about people that fundamentally believe that the United States needs to be recreated in a totally different image of what it actually was.
Right.
And so now, are there people within the Democratic Party and at the state level that think all this, cultural stuff, like with Drag Queen Story, was nonsense and they don't want to seize the means of production? Sure. And you know what they do? They sit there quietly, they shut up, and they vote the way that they're told to vote, because otherwise they'll get a primary challenge and they'll lose. Yeah.
Before I jump to our next story, I want to give a shout out to Matt Gaetz, who posted a very flattering video clip, and I really do appreciate it. Matt, we're huge fans. And he writes, the Timcast audience is so fire, they will literally stop on a highway meeting to say, hey, thanks for your support and your vote today, Joe. It's 14 seconds. Check this out.
What's up, man? Matt.
Good to see you out here, Joe. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Joe.
I have to say this because I always see you talk about it. I always love watching you on Timcast, man.
Oh, dude, it is an honor, Representative Gaetz. He's my favorite member of Congress because he bucks the system. He challenges it. He actually stands up for what regular people have been asking someone to do. I don't know that it always works out perfectly. Speaker Johnson is not perfect, but telling McCarthy, telling the IOU machine, this backroom dealing that we're not going to play this game anymore was one of the most epic things I've ever seen. And Matt also does a tremendously great job in general with understanding what regular people actually want. So it was an honor and a privilege to see that video clip, and I really do appreciate it. He's effectively making it a meme now, because he's mentioned it twice, I think, where he's like, the Timcast people always come up to me. And so he posts a video.
Thanks for watching this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to check out the live show Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. on this channel. Subscribe, and we'll see you all there.